Bit of an unscripted video here. So a while back in my article for A Voice for Men, when I talked about TERFs and conservatives kind of joining forces and denigrating biological males for whatever reason, one of the things I mentioned was that I had wondered if Matt Walsh was a particular proponent of circumcising boys. Now, it's not hard to guess, right? It's like, as a conservative, he's probably very likely going to be for that, but I wasn't sure. I then proceeded to talk about Jordan Peterson in the article, in which he used the word genital mutilation for everything except the actual infant male genital mutilation happening. Well, as it turns out, I was right about Matt Walsh and my guests. Recently, I saw something, Nico's anti-MGM, thanks for the tip-off on this one on Twitter. Basically, I don't have it handy with me, I'm just recording this in the car, but basically saying that that foreskin removal, that ripping off of that foreskin, it's not an amputation, and saying that you can't take that kind of a definition of an amputation seriously, or something to that effect, and also mentioning that it's not an infringement of an individual's liberty to, actually go through this act of pinning them down on that board, strap them down, and rip off an actual piece of their functioning sex organ, male sex organ. So yeah, there you have it. Really, I mean, we've got people like Matt Walsh. Here's why I'm up in arms about these kinds of hypocrites. The average American in the street, I could power New York City for a week if it meant that it would produce energy for me to actually go out and eviscerate someone on their stance on circumcision in the United States. Chances are most people are ignorantly for that, and they'll come up with just about every reason. But here's why I'm zeroing in on the Matt Walshes, and the reason I've zeroed in on the Jordan Petersons and such. The reason is because they're the ones using the term genital mutilation. And, it's even outside of the usual context of the female genital mutilation, which they're likely to probably protest. And so, yeah, this hypocrisy needs to stop. And I'm getting really sick and tired of them going on about genital mutilation, but overlooking the very common, most prevalent one in the United States, and unfortunately spreading in select parts of the world here. And that's not all I want to kind of talk about the TERF people, the TERF crowd. There's been an influx of people who profess to be about men's issues. Now we're talking about people other than just your normal trad cons who just think that masculinity only needs to exist to be disposed of and for gynocentric purposes. People who are actually professing to be about men's mental health and for men's issues, but they're absolutely fine with circumcision. They freely admit that it's a parent's right to do so. Let me tell you something. MGM, male genital mutilation, is a litmus test for men's rights. It's a gatekeeping point, because that is one of the biggest, it's like top 5 biggest issues in the men's movement. Because you're taking a male that's entering life itself, entering this world, few days, and you subject him to brutal torture. You subject him to the most excruciating pain they will feel in their life, and at the most vulnerable point in their life too. And then there's going to be the ensuing alexithymia. There's going to be the ensuing problems that he might have, including depression. If he realizes what the heck's happened to him, he's not conditioned to just go along with it. He's like an abuse victim. He's like a male abuse victim who says that he probably deserved it, or he doesn't recognize that it's an actual problem. He'll probably say it's funny when men are abused. But I'm kind of going off track here. And that's the thing. So it's very much an inextractable. Is that even a word? You can't extract this thing from men's issues. You can't be in the men's movement and say that you don't care about male genital mutilation, or that's not a huge issue. It has to be, because we're talking about the autonomy of males. We're talking about their gender mitigation. I've said before that it's an act of gender mitigation. It's not unlike the what the trans lobby is trying to do. It's not unlike what the feminists have been trying to do with their propaganda about toxic masculinity and all that bullshit. But this is about infants here. This is about the risk of death. This normalization that the broken male genitalia is, that's normal. It's the fact that it is the desirable thing to do. What does that say about society that desires a mutilated, broken genitalia of males? This desiring a broken male, that's very consistent with every kind of misandric sort of ideology, and supporting that has no place in the men's movement. So just shut the hell up about men's mental health if you're not even going to care about this sort of thing. Shut the hell up about listening to men or men's issues. This is like the big thing that men speak about and are ignored. So this hypocrisy needs to stop. It's everywhere. I've been warning you before. You can't trust someone who is just anti-feminist. You can't trust someone who is just not woke, or is a conservative or something like that, or any of that. More scrutiny is necessary, but one light at the end of the tunnel here is I think that more people are starting to get it, at least to some extent. I'm glad that some people are speaking up about the hypocrisy surrounding the child mutilation dialogue, the genital mutilation dialogue. I'm kind of thinking back to what Matt Walsh said about amputations. Well, because what he said was, that the foreskin is not a limb, therefore it doesn't count as an amputation. Well, neither does breast tissue. No, that's not a limb. If anything, it's a modified sweat gland. But you make a big deal about that. So there's nothing short of gynocentrism at work here. So really, I'm just done with idiots. If they're not anti-gynocentric, if they're not anti-MGM, just get the fuck out. Join the feminists and the idiot tradcons with their subjugation of male kind. Because clearly that's where you're most happy at. I'm really done.